This morning we're in a warehouse, and it is a functional warehouse, and it is quite noisy. You'll probably hear the sound of trucks and people and possibly even some ribald language as we go along in this film. What we're going to do is we're going to look at this thing in front of us, which is a Hewlett-Packard M601. It's a printer from the M600 series, and every 4 weeks or so we go around and we give them cleaning, inspection, maintenance and service. As it is a warehouse, it does get very dusty. And if I just move the camera slightly over the top of this printer, take the power lead out, you can see that it is indeed very, very grubby. We can't have that. If it gets much grubbier, what will happen is all the dust and dirt and debris will get in there and it'll grind the gears. We'll also not have a very good quality of print. So we're going to do some maintenance on it. Now, for this machine, we don't actually need electrostatic grounding, which is a blessing. What we do need is a pair of big black latex gloves, because we're not supposed to touch any of the transfer rollers with our oily fingers. And we're going to get very, very dirty. The first thing we're going to do, when I've got my gloves on, is we're going to rip it into its component modules. So, I'm going to flip the top off this thing now and take bits out. And this, of course, is the ink cartridge. That to one side. The next thing that comes out is the transfer roller. Transfer roller is a piece that sends the paper forward after the ink cartridge into the fuser. If we take tray 1 down, oh yes, I'm just going to zoom in on that because there's quite an important bit there. You may see, if you look carefully there, quite a lot of dust and debris, and just to make the point a bit more clear, I'm going to take a tissue and do that. That is paper dust, and also a lot of dust from the warehouse. Paper dust is very, very, very bad. It's very fine, and if it gets in the gears it will grind them. Looks like we've caught this one just in time on its 4-week cycle. Let's zoom out a bit so we can see the whole thing again. And the important thing here is we're going to take out this roller. You can see how dirty this roller is, so we're going to clean that definitely. Out comes the paper tray next. Even the paper tray is covered in dust, so this one is definitely ready for its cleaning and service. Next thing we'll do is we'll turn it round. Now this machine is meant to print invoices. And the invoices have 2 sides, and we don't want to be feeding them through the printer twice by hand, so what we've got here is we've got a duplexer. I'm going to take the duplexer out. We'll have a quick gaze at it as I do take it out. And as you can see, it's an electromechanical device. Lots and lots of complicated bits in there, and very, very dusty. We don't want all that dust in there. It is going to grind the gears and it's going to bring it to a halt if we're not careful. So, put that to one side. The next thing we're going to take off is the back door. The back door has a certain number of rollers. They're not active. They're completely and utterly passive, but as the paper passes over them it eases its transition. If the paper's too late out of the fuser into the output bin, you will get a jam. So what we want to do is we want to clean them and make sure that they're rolling freely. Next to come out is the fuser. The fuser is a very, very important part of a laser printer, as it makes a toner onto the paper and gives us the crisp, clean copy. So we're going to pay special attention to that later on. Now we're always extremely careful with these things. They come as a module kit. They cost £139 each, and if we drop one, it'll break, and nobody will be very pleased with us. So extreme care is advised when handling a fuser. Paper tray back cover is the next thing to come off. That's not particularly important, but we do have to keep it clean, otherwise we will get dust on the paper and the print quality will suffer. What we're going to do next is we're going to take out two very important rollers from the front. They are the transfer and drive rollers for the paper pickup. So we're going to turn the printer around again and take those two rollers out, and we'll have a quick gaze at them as we take them out. They're underneath the tray there and above tray 2, and what you have to do, and move the camera down a little bit and pan it in so we can see things, you go under here and you carefully unhook that roller, and once again carefully unhook that roller. And what we're going to be looking for on here is cleanliness, and also we're going to be looking for the tread. It should be a bit like a tyre, should have a nice little tread on to pick the paper up and separate the paper. If they don't, they want replacing, and we have spares, so that's not a problem. So we'll look at those as we put them back. I'm going to pop the top cover so that we can have a look inside. Now you'll see that it's quite dirty. If you look here, all this black stuff, it's toner that's leaked out of a cartridge. It probably did it while it was wiping. It needs to go. The print quality will suffer if we leave it like that, and eventually it will break. So let's put the camera back and see what we're going to do. Before we do anything, we're going to give the printer a dust because it's covered in it, and we're also going to get it off the vents where the fans are, because we really don't want that much dust sucked through there. And to do that, we've got a thing called a convac, and this is going to get loud. That's the convac. So we're going to do the top by duster, and then we're going to do the vents by convac. Just like this, really. Now we've got the worst of the dust off, we can now take off the back plate to one side, and off we go. Now earlier on I talked about the vents, and here you can see the vents. If we zoom in a little bit, you can see that they're absolutely caked in dust. So what I've got to do now is I've got to get all that dust off there. And then we're going to have a quick look at the electronic circuitry. We're not going to do anything with it, we're just going to make sure there's nothing visibly wrong with it and that the IDE is connected. So here we go with the Conlac. So if you look at the vent on the left, I've gone about halfway down it. And you can actually see the difference. That's what we want. We want nice clean vents. Underneath there are 2 cooling pans, and we really don't want the dust in those cooling pans. As I said, we do this once every 4 weeks, and that's sufficient to keep the machine clean without having to strip it down completely and utterly. Once a year we do strip it down completely and utterly and see what we can see inside it. Because we do the 4-week cycle, we never find much dirt actually in the important parts of the interior of the machine. Let's carry on cleaning. So having done that, what we're going to do next is zoom out a little bit. And I'm going to open the door on the right hand side there, and you can see what's behind it. And the answer is a lot of dirt. So we're going to clean that off before we put it back on again. More importantly, what we are going to do is we're going to flip this. And this is why we're wearing these latex gloves. What we can see here is the main circuit board controls all the functions of the printer. This is a solid state drive onto which all the firmware of the printer is put. And the rest of it, there are power supplies, drive signalling units and so on and so forth, and a little processor. What we do is we look and make sure nothing's visibly bent, broken or burnt, give it a quick blow off dust, and then shut it up again. We only replace the board if we absolutely need to. It's often cheaper to replace the printer than the board. So we just look at it, make sure everything's okay, and shut it back up. We're going to get the dust away from the cage, and we'll just do that by means of a duster. Getting the dust away from the door is a bit of a different story, because what we're going to do, we're going to use some of this air duster. Wonderful invention, but we don't use it on much of the inside of the printer, because if we do, we'll probably break something. The one part of the printer we can use it on is the back comb. I'll show you this now. If there's one part that dust and debris is going to jam, it's going to be this. These are the rollers that send to the output bin once all the printing is done. Now, I have found in here compacted labels, compacted paper, compacted dust, and of course the printer would jam with that. So we strive to keep these as clean as we possibly can, and the easiest way to do it is to get some air duster, blast from the front and see what gets knocked out the back. Now, as you might have seen, there was a fair amount of dust there, but not a great deal of debris, so we're okay with that really. Let's get some more cleaning done, and we'll start with the back. One of the most important things you can have in your toolkit is a simple paintbrush. They're extremely handy. If we start at the top of the printer and work our way down, we can get rid of the dust from anywhere. What we're particularly looking for here is any mechanical parts must be clean and dust free, and so must any electrical connectors. Anywhere where the paper is going to come through does not want to be dirty. So we're going to look for signs of grease, dirt, lubricant, whatever, and get it off there. I'm going to take the camera down slightly so that we can see the gears in the back here. Now this gear here drives a fuser. So we really want that to be clean, and we really want that to be nice and as friction free as possible. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in with our cloth. We're going to make sure that everything is as it should be. Go in, we do a quick visual inspection. There's a little bit of grease on that, but there's nothing there really to worry us. So, what we're going to do is, having looked at the back and got it to an acceptable standard, we're going to turn it round and look at the front. Now, that's really grotty. That's absolutely filthy. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean it out. We're not going to use air blaster because underneath that hood there is a 7-sided mirror. If we're not careful, we send the air up to too high a pressure. What we will do is break the 7-sided mirror, and that won't be any good at all, because then it will be cheaper to get a new printer than replace that. So we're going to get a paintbrush and we're going to get the Convac, and we're going to gently coax the dust into the vacuum. Now it's at this point that we're going to take out the envelope feeder as well, because that's grubby and the envelope feeder is here. That gives us a much better access way into the registry rollers underneath the little label there, you can see. Move the camera down a little bit, and what we're going to do is we're going to pull out tray 1. And now we'll put back the mechanism for tray 1. So what we've actually done here is we've moved all the dust down to the bottom, and so the last thing we're going to do on the frame of the printer is we're going to go underneath with the cloth and we're going to remove any dust that's fallen down to the bottom and didn't get sucked up by the convac, and any dust that might have been in the bottom as well. See? Can't quite see it on the camera, but there is a chute here, and it's important that this chute gets cleaned. You just rub a cloth over it so it looks visually clean, nice and shine and bright. Just look for any grease on the feeding clutches. Wipe it up if there is, and then again there's the roller drive, and we're nice and clean on there. So the camera back up here. So we've got the outside of the printer nice and clean, and we've got the chassis of the printer nice and clean, and the interior mechanical parts of the printer are nice and clean. So what we've got to do now is we've got to put it back together again and clean as we go with all the components. And just before we end this film, I'm going to point the camera at where I put the components, and you'll see that they're all laid out in a nice order. That way we know where all the components are. We're not likely to break anything, and we can go through and put things back as we need to. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put the machine back together again using the parts we took out before. I'm going to inspect the parts and clean them as we go. And since the front is facing us at the moment, it seems very sensible to start building it from the front and then go round the back. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our big black rubber gloves back on. And having done that, we're going to flip the top. Okay, so we've got a nice clean top in there, jolly good. First thing we need to put back in is this, the transfer roller. Before we do that, we're going to clean the transfer roller. Now, that gear comes off the end like this. The stability clip comes off like that. You'll see that there is toner residue from when a cartridge is leaked on there. So we need to get rid of that. We'll just take a bit of tissue, do this, until it's nice and bright and shiny. And the same with the other end. gear's not actually all that bad, but what we can do, just to make sure, give it a bit of blast of air. Short control blast. And do the same with the clip. And of course, not dropping the clip, we'll put it back on. There's a certain way that these have got to go, and it goes like that. Put it on the other way, it will work, but it will grind a bit. Now you might notice that there's a key here. The gear has a similar shape cut into it. So basically you just match the two up, pop the gear on, shove it back in. I always like to give it a rotation and make sure it's moving freely. If it is, it's a good job. There we go. You can also put the ink cartridge back in now. The ink cartridge is a bit grotty. And what we actually want to do here is we want to keep all the dirt and dust off this photoreceptive roller. There it is, photoreceptive roller. That's the thing that actually puts the imprint on the paper. So if that's dirty, the cartridge is no good. So we brush away from the photoreceptive roller. Making sure you don't get anything on it. And we do the same on the top. Get rid of all the dust. There we go. Pop the cartridge back in. And we're done there. Pull tray 1 down. We can now put this feed roller back in. And as you can see, this is in a disgusting condition. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to give it a gentle dose of water. Water with a tiny little bit of detergent in it. Just gently squeeze a bit on like that. Grab the tissue. Get your thumb. Spread the water around. Get rid of all the dust. Till the thing is nice and shiny black. And then just gently dry it. Make sure you've got some decent towels for this. If you use a soft tissue, it'll disintegrate all over and you'll have to start all over again. Now this is a bit I really hate because this is fiddly to put back. Very fiddly. So you may see me struggle here. Okay, so it slides on and you give it a nice resounding click and you know the job's done. We're not going to put tray 2 in, the bottom tray at the moment because we need to clean it. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the whole thing round and we're going to build bits up at the back. The only grubby bits with this, we'll just go over into a bit of the dust. And the first thing that has to go in at the back is the fuser. This is the fuser module. Now the reason it's so important that we check the fuser module is this. These are some old ones. They're taken out of printers previously when they've been broken. And as you can see, it's a very complex piece of kit. This is one with the back taken off. It gets hot, and these are what supply the heaters. This is a drive to keep the rollers going, and it's the reason we needed to keep that gear clean in the last video. I'm going to show you what happens when a fuser goes bad. Now this is what we inspect a fuser for. As you can see here, the fuser has a roller that is covered with a Teflon coating. Sometimes, due to wear, due to heat, and just generally due to age, the Teflon coating splits. When that happens, it tends to jam, scrinkle, spoit, and just generally screw up the paper, and you will not get a good print at all. If we see anything like that, then we replace the fuser immediately. So this is the fuser we're going to put back in, and as you can see it's very, very dirty. So we're going to brush it to begin with, and we're going to look at the Teflon coating on this roller. Now this one has started to develop a white line. That's worrying, but it's not too worrying at the moment, so I'm going to say this one's fine to put back in. We might need to keep an eye on it for the next couple of months. Probably around about 6 months' time we will be replacing this fuser. We'll just brush it for the time being and give it a nice clean up. We want the dust to go away from the rollers. We want the dust out of the gears. We also want to make sure the electrical connector is nice and clean. Don't want any dust in there. Okay, now we'll just put the fuser back in. There we go. This. Push it at both ends. Make sure it clicks, and if it does, the job is done and good. We get our duster. Any bits we've missed on the bottom there, we'll just take the dust off. Nice and clean. The next job is to put the back door on. What we're going to do with the back door is give it a good blast with the air duster. Keep it away from the machine. And having done that, spin the dust over, get rid of anything we've missed, the back door's ready to go back on. Next thing is the top plate back. This is fairly clean actually, so no problem with that at all. It goes on a certain way and there's a little arrow there to tell you which way it's supposed to go on, so on she goes. We'll do the rear door for the paper tray and we'll make it nice and clean so that no dust is getting on the paper and spoiling the print quality. Just fit her on the hinges like that. Good. Now, the duplexer. The duplexer is an entirely different kettle of fish. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see what we're doing with the duplexer. The duplexer has a fan here. We really do not want dust to get into that fan. If it gets into the fan, it'll go over all the mechanical parts. This duplexer is particularly dirty. They tend to attract all the dust everywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to air blast down there. There's nothing in there that we can break, so we can confidently put a blast of air down there. But a better idea, before we air blast, is to get rid of all the dust on here. Back to our paintbrush. You can see just how grotty this was. It's that grotty that it's made our work area a bit grotty as well, so we'll need to brush that. Get rid of it. And now, we'll take the can of air duster and we'll go in there. Quite a cloud came off that. So we're going to dust the back. But I'm not putting any air duster in here, and the reason I'm not putting any air duster in here is that there is a fan at the back of it and I don't want to damage the fan. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the convex and we're going to physically suck it out before we put it back. So I'll put the camera back up here so we can see what we're doing. goes back in, and then he gets with this. Give a bit of a dust to. So, let's turn it back round, because what we're going to do now, I'm going to physically clean the envelope feeder. Yes, that was grotty. And then we're going to shove it back. Our next job is the two rollers from paper tray 2. So this is the dry roller. And really what we're looking for here is evidence of any cracks or wear or breakage. And we just go round like that. What I like to do is I like to see where that was when I started and where that is when I finished, and then I know I've gone for a complete revolution. There's nothing wrong with that, so we'll shove it back in. Go. We'll do the same with this. Now this one is showing some signs of wear. The tread on it is not very good. So what we'll do is we'll get a new one. Now that one's a bit better. Lots of tread on that, so we'll put the new one in. There we are, and we'll dispose of the old one. So what's left for us to do is to clean out tray 2, the paper tray. So let's bring the camera round a bit. There we go, so we can see what's happening on there. That's the paper tray from the printer. So what we're going to do is take the paper out. Take these out. And what we have here is the separator roller. And basically what this does is make sure only one piece of paper goes through to the printer feed at a time. So we need to look at it and see if it's got any cracks and wears in it. If it hasn't, we can shove it back in. Pretty fine, that one. What we also have here is a torque limiter. The torque limiter makes sure that the separator roller does not spin too fast. If it isn't there, the separator roller will spin too fast and you'll get it feeding 2, 3 or maybe even 4 pieces of paper up into the chute at the same time, and then it will moan that it's got a jam. Again, on the torque limiter we're looking for cracks or signs of damage. There should never be any cracks or signs of damage on the torque limiter at all, but occasionally, you never know, somebody might have handled it roughly and broken something. That one's fine. So, we're going to clean the paper trays. With the paper tray, what we're looking for is everywhere where it's mechanical, or everywhere where the paper is going to leave it, to be very clean. We don't want dirty paper going into the printer. The print quality will be shocking and it'll spread dirt all over the printer. So, we're going to give it a dust. We're going to give it a clean. We've got to concentrate especially on where the paper goes. Make sure the lifting gear works as well. It should do. Just gently go in there now. And just everything there. Make sure the mechanical part's clean, otherwise we will get a jam. Looking fine. Now make sure that the setting is for A4. Which it is, so we can put some paper back in. Somebody's actually filled this a little bit too much, so we'll leave a few sheets of paper on. About enough paper, make sure it's in there nicely. I'm going to put the torque limiter back in, and we have to make sure this sits on its spigots. If it doesn't, it'll just spin round uselessly and it will jam. So now we'll put the drawer back into the printer. There we We'll dust the bottom. And we'll take our big black gloves off. So that's the printer rebuilt. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. So what we've got to do now is we've got to hook it up to some mains, and we've got to get it to print something and see if it works. It's our next task. So here's a printer we rebuilt, and what we're going to do is we're going to boot it up and we're going to print some stuff off and see what happens. First thing to do then, put the electrical cord in. Now, here's a trick for testing electrical cords. Firstly, look at the pins. Make sure they're not cracked, bent, broken or anything like that. That's great. And then, take the flex, hold it in your hand like that, between your thumb and your forefinger, and gently pull the flex through. If there's any nicks or cuts or cracks in the insulation, you will feel them. And if there is, you need to inspect it, and if it's too bad, chuck the cord out. The last thing you want is exposed wires in there. That's great, there's nothing wrong in there. The end is all sealed. Fabulous. So we'll plug it into the socket, making sure the socket's switched off, and we'll plug the other end into the printer. Now hopefully as I switch the socket on, the printer will boot up. Okay, we can see some green lights winking, and if we come out a little bit, you can see that the button at the bottom is green. So, we're booting up. Now this particular kind of printer takes an age to boot up. There's a lot of hardware in it, and the duplexer doesn't help. So it will take a couple of minutes, and while we're doing that, what we can do is we can go round and give it a little bit of a clean of the ground-in dirt that's on it that we didn't get off in the first pass. Looking on the display here, what it's doing is it's checking its hardware, and now it's initialising everything. In a minute we'll hear some motors start to turn, I hope. There they go. I can see that the output motors are turning, and I can hear that the tray is lifting. Things are looking good. The error light's gone off, which means that it likes everything it's found so far. And there we are, it's ready. So what we'll do is we'll make it print some things like this. And now, as I said before, these printers are designed to print in duplex. So when it's finished processing what it's got to print, as you can see by the blinking green light there, you'll be able to see, as the pages come out, some of them will go back in. Alright, I can hear motors turning, and here comes some output. That's a simplex. There's a duplex. Did you see it go back in? And out it comes, printed on both sides. There's another duplex. There's simplex. And there's another duplex. And what that tells us is the duplexer is up, running and working, and everything is tickety-boo. So it's finished printing, and now we've got another check to make. If the fuser is in any way broken, what will happen is it won't bake the toner onto the page, and when we rub it, all the toner will rub off. So what we do is we go like that, and if the text doesn't blur, we know the fuser is working. Great. Excellent. Turn them over and let's find some duplex sides. There's one. Great stuff. You can tell it's a duplex side because it's printed automatically on both sides. And what that means is we have successfully done our job. We've got a nice clean printer, where before we had a dirty grubby printer, and we made sure all the bits are working and that nothing is likely to break down in the next 4 weeks, which means that the operative shouldn't have any problems with it. Job done. Time for a cup of tea.